Today, we're going to follow one single piece of paper on its secret journey right into the heart of a massive organization. We're going to unpack this really fascinating system called deck management and see exactly how order is created from what could be total chaos.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Have you ever sent a letter or, an important email to a big government department or a huge company and then just wondered, what in the world happens next? Where does it actually go? Who's the person that reads it? Well, today, we're going to trace that exact path.
The moment your letter arrives, it's not just a letter anymore. It has officially entered a highly structured world, a world with its very own vocabulary. And the first word you absolutely need to know to understand this journey is doc.
So, what is DAC? Simply put, it's everything. It's the official catch-all term for any piece of written communication that comes into a department that needs to be looked at. So your letter, that's DAC. An internal memo is DAC. An urgent email, if it needs some kind of action, it all falls under this one single powerful term.
So our letter, our piece of DAC, has officially arrived. What's the very first door it knocks on? Where does the clock actually start ticking on its journey?
It all begins at the central registry. Now, I want you to think of this place like the grand mailroom, or better yet, the air traffic control tower for all incoming information. Absolutely nothing gets into the system without passing through this one critical gateway first.
And don't think for a second this is just a simple mail drop. No way. First, the urgent stuff gets pulled out and separated immediately. Then almost everything is opened, stamped, and sorted based on which section of the organization it's meant for. The really critical items get logged into an official DAC register, and then everything is sent out for distribution on a super strict schedule. It's this highly organized triage system, and it makes sure the most important information gets seen first and that nothing gets lost in the shuffle.
So who are the main characters in our document's little adventure? Well, after it leaves the central registry, the very next person to see our letter will be the dealing hand. This is the official who does the initial analysis. And watching over them is the section officer, who kind of manages the workflow and keeps an eye on the whole case.
All right, so our document has been delivered from the main hub to the correct section. Now, it has to be officially brought into the fold, given its proper place.
This happens through a process called diarizing. This is where the letter gets its own unique ID number in that specific section's diary. So if the central registry gave it a ticket to get into the building, think of diarizing as giving it the key to a specific room. It's now officially on the books and totally traceable within that unit.
With its new tracking number, the document is formally handed over to that dealing hand we just mentioned, and their first job is absolutely crucial. They have to read it, understand it, and figure out exactly where it belongs in the grand scheme of things.
And right here, our document faces a fork in the road. The dealing hand has to make a call. Is this letter about a case that's already open and active? Or is this the start of something totally new that needs a brand new file?
Whichever path it takes, our document now has a home, a file. And this is the official container for its entire life story inside the organization. It's got two main parts: the correspondence, which is all the letters and replies, the back and forth, and then there are the notes, and that's the internal conversation happening between all the officials about the case.
Okay, so our document is now safely tucked away in its file, ready for the next phase of its journey. This is the ascent, where it starts moving up the hierarchy for analysis, for review, and eventually for a decision.
This whole ascent is powered by the note. This is the real core of the decision-making process. As officials review the file, they write down their analysis, and that creates this chain of accountability. A note can summarize the history of the case, break down the questions that need answers, and formally suggest what to do next. It's pretty much the engine of the entire system.
And here's where the system is actually really smart. It adapts based on how complicated things are. For a simple, routine case, you don't need some huge, elaborate note. A draft reply might get put together right away. But for a complex issue, oh yeah, that's a whole different story. The examination is intense. The dealing hand has to check every single fact, point out any mistakes, find any rules or past cases that apply, and even suggest a few different solutions for their bosses to consider. So, after this tough examination and climbing up the chain of command, our document finally reaches the peak. This is the culmination of its whole journey, where a decision is finally made and an official response is prepared.
That final output is called an issue. This is the official communication that leaves the organization. It could be the reply to your original letter, or maybe an internal order, or really any other action that comes from the decision. This is the system's final word on the matter.
And with that, our document's active journey is complete. The file is closed, but it's not just thrown away. It gets archived, and it becomes a permanent part of the organization's memory, a record of a problem that was raised, a process that was followed, and a decision that was made.
So, we've just followed the super intricate path of one single document. It might seem like a lot of steps, I get it, but there's a clear logic behind all of it. So let's zoom out and take a look at the big picture. Why does this elaborate system even exist in the first place?
You know, this entire procedure is built for a very clear purpose. It's designed to make sure every case is handled with uniformity and that no paper ever gets lost. It creates a system for checking on delays and, this is a huge one, for fixing responsibility at every single stage. The ultimate goal here is to allow a massive, complex organization to function efficiently and with full accountability.
And this phrase right here, this really gets to the heart of the whole philosophy. The procedure is a means, not an end. All of these rules, all these registers and different roles, they don't just exist for their own sake. They're tools. They're designed to achieve a much larger goal, and that goal is orderly, fair, and transparent administration.
Which brings us to one final thought. When you see a system that is this methodical, this detailed, what do you see? Is it just frustrating red tape that slows everything down? Or is it the necessary and maybe even brilliant blueprint for creating order out of the absolute chaos of managing information on a massive scale? That's the question that sits at the very heart of any large system.